Hello again, fellow humans, human fellas, and welcome back to another video in the Dragon Prince Enneagram series. If you're new here, trees to meet ya. This is a little series that I started where basically I go through some Dragon Prince characters and I assign them personality types according to the Enneagram Theory. So about the Enneagram Theory, this isn't really a video like for beginners, sorry, but I'll try to explain it a little bit. The Enneagram is a personality typing theory that is based on our core motivations and our core fears rather than things like, do you prefer going out or staying in? Are you a night owl, early bird, that kind of thing. It's more like, why do you prefer to go out or stay in? So in the last video, I went through Team Zadia, which consists of Callum, Ezrin, and Rayla, and today we will be discussing Team Dark Magic, Viren, Claudia, and Terry. Not Aaravos because I have yet to write his video, but there will be a video dedicated to Aaravos, don't worry. This video might be a bit negative because in Team Dark Magic, we have a lot of like unhealthy people and coping mechanisms. Actually, Terry has not that bad coping mechanisms. He is all about aromatherapy and therapy and talking about your feelings and stuff like that. Don't be too discouraged. First of all these characters are fictional. Second of all, the Enneagram really is about how you can be your best self, and a lot of times that does mean like reckoning with the fact that we're all like flawed in some way, right? It's alright. We all have a chance to get better, alright? As usual, this is how I've structured this analysis. We start with the character and their type and main traits, their core motivation, their core fears, their wing, their movement of integration, which is when they're at their healthiest, their movement of disintegration, which is when they're at their unhealthiest, their subtype / instinct, which there exists 3, self-preservation, the social, and the one-to-one, sometimes known as sexual. The triads, so we have the center of intelligence, which is the body / gut, heart / image, or head / mind. The harmonic triad, which is how each type handles conflict, coping mechanisms, and their worldview. And the Hornevian triad, which is how each type moves in relation to other people, how they get what they want or need, how they comport themselves in any given situation, and finally, any extra bonus stuff that I have to mention. So if you want to check out later the other Enneagram Dragon Prince video that I did, you can check it out here. And if you want also to see other cartoon Enneagrams, then you should check out the playlist that I made dedicated to just that. And without further ado, I think it's time to get started. So we are going to start with former High Mage, former villain, Viren. I type Viren as an 8-wing 7, the Challenger. So if you recall in the other video, Rayla is also a Challenger, but Viren is vastly different from Rayla, not just because of his wing and of his subtype, but also because he's a lot unhealthier than Rayla is. So the main traits of a Challenger are that they're self-sufficient, they're passionate, and they're powerful, they're stubborn and headstrong. They have competence, influence, power, and control. Challengers crave respect as opposed to status or being liked by the group. So definitely I would say Viren is not as worried about being liked by the group. He does care about status a little bit, but not as much as maybe like a type 3 achiever. So the core motivations of challengers are that they want independence and control, especially control over themselves and their life. Trudy says this: they view the world as made up of strong and weak people. They are strong and therefore are responsible for protecting those who are not. So Viren feels like he is the sole person who can save all of humanity. He's the only person who is strong enough and has the means to protect the weak. The core fears of type 8 challengers are vulnerability and lack of control over their lives. In every situation prior to his epiphany in season 5/6, Viren held on to whatever power he had. If that power or control went away, be it dark magic or his political position, then he would be left vulnerable, and that's the last thing that type 8s want. They fear appearing vulnerable or weak because that's when somebody else might have the chance to take advantage of them. Now onto the wing, I say that Viren is an 8-wing 7, and that type is known as the Maverick. I don't know why I did this, I'm sorry. They have illusions of omnipotence, who are also a bit of a manic. So I thought that was kind of crazy, but I mean, very fitting for Viren. They can be uncompassionate and cruel. They steamroll. They feel they are above the standard rules. They react harshly against anyone that betrays them or contradicts them, as says you've got a type. So next we are on to the movement of integration and disintegration. Let's start with the movement of integration just to keep it a little bit lighter before we go back to the heavy stuff again. Oops. So the movement of integration for the type 8 is towards the healthiest aspects of the type 2 helper. So this would be like their selflessness and their like unconditional love for people. Viren literally sacrifices his life, fully encompassing a servant attitude at the end of season 6, which is the hallmark of the type 2 helper. But the movement of disintegration for type 8 is towards the 5. So this is when they become secretive and manipulative, like an unhealthy 5. They hide the truth from others to keep themselves and their power safe, as you've got a type says. Recall in season 1 when he gave Soren and Claudia their secret missions, all so that his master plan to save humanity would stay intact. And so he did all of that as well to keep himself in power, right? Saving humanity was like, I'm sure maybe he had that like true like desire to save humanity, but why did he want to save humanity? So that he could like have independence, because way back when magic was introduced to humans, and then like all the archdragons were like, hey, this is bad, this has potential to be like problematic, they took it away from them. So for Viren, it's like, they can't take away my power if I'm the one who's in power. Viren also, in season 1, deceived Gren by taking him off command and putting Soren in charge, and in effect himself, of finding the princess. That's also when he gave Soren that secret mission, which, again, he was being very secretive, like a type 5, an unhealthy 5. Onto the subtype / instinct, I say that Viren's main instinct is self-preservation. So you've got a type says this about self-pres 8. They protect their physical and material well-being. They're self-centered, they hoard resources, and justify all of their behaviors because they're hard workers. He also goes on to say that because 8s are ambitious and value security, 8s with a self-preservation instinct will have those stereotypical signs of success. So Viren was the high mage. He probably was really rich. I mean, he lived in the castle. He was, for a little while, Harrow's like most trusted advisor. That's the kind of like signs of success. And then CP Enneagram says this: self-preservation 8s know how to survive in difficult situations and feel omnipotent when it comes to getting what they need. They are the least expressive and most armed of the 3/8 subtypes. On to the 3 triads. So first we are on to the center of intelligence. Viren, as a type 8, is in the body / head center, which means they have very easy access to anger. So they overexpress their anger, and this rage is what motivates them to keep things in control. But when things are out of their control, they get angry, and then it's kind of like a cycle of like continuous anger if you don't keep yourself in check, which certainly Viren did not keep himself in check for most of the series, right? Next, the harmonic triad. Type 8s are in the reactive group, so this is about how they cope with trauma, and they definitely respond very emotionally, and I'll give you 2 seconds to think of what emotion they respond with. It's anger. So when they feel powerless, anger makes them feel powerful. So think about how when Lissa, I think that's how you say it, Viren's wife, leaves him, his heart breaks, he's very, very sad. justifiably. But when she leaves him, he feels powerless and he needs an outlet for all of his anger. So he chooses Soren, who has no fault in any of this, to become the target of Viren's rage and abuse. In the Hornevian triad, 8s are in the assertive group. This is about how they get what they want and act in a given social circumstance or situation. 8s will make their presence known in every room that they're in. So think about in season 2 when Viren summons the pentarchy of the human kingdoms. He is loud, direct, and ruthless. Also that he can be in charge because he knows that if he's found out for having used Viren's seal without being regent, he'll go to jail. So he asserts himself and effectively unites all but one of the crowns under his cause of saving humanity. Now for some bonus stuff, bear with me, a little bit more negativity to Viren, but he's done a lot of things wrong and he's fictional, so it's okay, right? Take this as like a warning, like don't be like Viren. And if you do find yourself in the presence of a person who's like Viren, try to stay away from them. So Truity says this about unhealthy 8s. They are addicted to the pursuit of power and will destroy anything blocking their way with fury. When their delusions of power get out of hand, challengers become stone cold and take an antagonistic stand to anyone who dares question them and their motives. They turn existing relationships into tests. He definitely tested Soren and Claudia's competency and loyalty to him with their secret missions in season 1 and 2. Others may turn their backs on challengers who will reason that they were better off working alone anyway. You're not strong enough to handle me, is how a challenger might think. Viren definitely viewed Soren as incompetent for most of his life. He failed his son in the test of their relationship, and when Soren leaves his father and his family, Viren sees that he's better off without his son. Finally, you've got a type says this about 8s, that they always have an idea of what others should be doing, but when they are at their healthiest, they move to the best traits of the type 2 helper and encourage others wholeheartedly. We got to see Viren's redemption at the end of season 6 when he celebrates Soren, though it didn't quite work out the way maybe he thought it would, because Viren never apologized to Soren. But for what it's worth, he did have a genuine change of heart. Next up, we have Claudia, or as I like to call her, Claudia Cat. I don't know why. I just started saying that once in my head and I was like, that's kind of cute. We have Sorebear and Claudia Cat. I see Claudia as a 2-winged 3, the helper, or the giver. So the main traits of a helper or giver are that they are helpful, generous, caring, and involved. The Enneagram Institute says that the love and concern that they feel warms their hearts and makes them feel worthwhile. And Personality Path says that helpers are attractive to almost anyone with their open and charming attitude. I definitely think that Claudia is pretty charming. The core motivations of helpers or givers are to be needed and to be loved, to be helpful to others. They want love and affirmation. They view themselves in a very positive light. So they think oh, I have something that others need. For Claudia, she has dark magic so that she can protect humanity. She's been properly indoctrinated by her father, and she has the key for saving Viren's life, and then she has something that Aaravos wants, and that motivates her to do whatever it takes to secure that sense of belonging, however dangerous, however vile. 2s do all of this because their core fear is abandonment, of being alone. Enneagram Institute says this: 2s in their development may be limited by their shadow side, pride, self-deception, the tendency to become over-involved in the lives of others, and the tendency to manipulate others to get their own emotional needs met. And you've got a type says this specifically about 2's upbringing, is that if dad needs my help, then I'll have dad's attention. So now that Viren is, gone for good, again, spoilers, Claudia focuses on being of service to Aaravos because she so desperately needs a father figure. So I see Claudia as a 2-wing 3, and that type is called the host. They are ambitious and competitive, enthusiastic and energetic like a 3. So you've got a type says that they can be a bit seductive. 2s with a 3-wing know what people like about them and know how to get people to do things for them too. Back in season 2, when Soren and Claudia caught up with Team Zadia at the moon nexus, she's like, we got to get the princes to come back with us. We need to butter them up. And when Soren's way doesn't work out, she tries something of her own. She appeals to Callum's trust, but also appeals to his infatuation with her. Finally, because of the 3-wing, these type 2s also seek a lot of social approval. Next, we're on to the move of integration. So when 2s are at the healthiest, they take on the best traits of a type 4, which are emotional, intuition, and self-soothingness? Self-soothe? Yeah. Also, healthy type 2s, when they are faced with a tough situation, they're not going to try to find a silver lining all the time. They're not going to try to be like, oh, it's fine, guys, it's fine. But they're going to be very comfortable with like, everything is not okay, but that is okay. I suppose Claudia isn't afraid of negativity, but I wouldn't quite say that she's at her healthiest. I instead think that she has made the move to disintegration, unfortunately, which is when type 2s take on the worst traits of an 8. They become aggressive and rude. So I feel like I kind of need to mention that her father, again, Viren, is a type 8 challenger. Coincidence? I think not. At their worst, 2s are able to excuse and rationalize what they do since they feel abused and victimized by others and are bitterly resentful and angry. While on the topic of unhealthiness, 2s have a hard time acknowledging their own needs. So think in season 5 when she wouldn't slow down and pushed herself to the point of exhaustion just to help Viren. I'd say that Claudia is definitely at her unhealthiest. So here's to hoping for a happy ending in season 7. Next, we're on to the subtype / instinct. I say that Claudia's main instinct is self-preservation. She is very concerned with keeping and maintaining her safe circle and will go to any length to protect that circle so that she would feel safe. I said a lot of protect, circle, and safe all in one sentence. I hope that made sense. Self-preservation 2s seduce like a child in the presence of adults or grown-ups as a way of unconsciously inducing others to take care of them. Self-preservation 2s adopt a youthful stance as a way of getting special treatment well beyond childhood. They have a desire to be loved and prioritize just for being who they are, not for what they give to others. So when Viren left her, she probably thought, you can't leave me because I'm your daughter. Not even like, you can't leave me because I have something that I could give to you, but more about their interconnectedness because of their familial identities. And related to the youthful stance, these 2s are playful, irresponsible, and charming. Next, we're on to the triads. So 2s are in the heart / image center. 2s believe that they are inherently unworthy, so they perform actions to earn belonging. And Enneagram Institute says this: type 2 has a real danger of falling into unconscious codependent patterns with loved ones, and they almost never bring what you really want. Claudia most certainly has a one-sided codependent relationship with her father and currently is in a codependent pattern with Aaravos. Bonus, her complicated relationship with Terry. Next, in the harmonic triad, 2s are in the positivity group. This is how they cope with adversity. They say, could be worse. Though she doesn't explicitly say, don't worry about it. She acts very, not nonchalant, but more dismissive about her own emotional and literal physical pains, like when she lost her leg in season 5. She didn't really make a big deal about it, but instead just was like, gotta keep going. Instead of taking time to revel in the fact that everything's falling to pieces, she keeps on keeping on like a bulldozer, and that's kind of that toxic positivity. Though maybe not explicitly with words like, you just gotta focus on the good. More like, I can't focus on the bad because if I do, then I'm gonna fall apart. In the Hornevian triad, twos are in the compliant group. This is how they act in social situations and how they get their needs met. They're going to follow the leader. She does everything she's told to do by her father and later Aaravos so that she can be of value to them. With all that said, I definitely think Claudia is at her unhealthiest as of now. She certainly has the capability of being selfless and good-hearted. It's kind of that like good intentions, bad actions. At the beginning of the series when she healed Soren, that was like her at her most selfless for the most altruistic reasons, but now she still acts very selfless. Like she's doing all these things, or in season like 4, 5, and 6, she did all these things for her father, but with less of like a desire to like do good for the sake of good, and instead do good so that she can be useful and valued and needed. But season 7 hasn't come out yet, so I'm still holding off hope for Claudia. Finally, we are on to Terry. Terry, I would say, is a 9-wing 8. They're also known as the peacemakers. So the main traits of a peacemaker are going to be that they are agreeable, empathetic, and gentle. This is what You've Got a Type says, that type 9s learn to suppress their desires. They look to other people as a fuel source to motivate or direct their lives. 9s can also be called lazy, and not in the sense that they're couch potatoes who do nothing, because really anybody has a potential to be lazy like that, but because 9s become out of touch with their emotions and opinions. While Terry does acknowledge his emotions and even talks about them very openly, i.e. in season 5 when he killed the Skywing elf to save Claudia, I, as an audience member, don't know what Terry's motivations are. Like, what does he stand for? What does he care about? What are his ambitions? We know pretty much every other character's motivation except for Terry. You've Got a Type says this about 9s, that they are masters at numbing their pain in the sweetest ways so that no one can ever call them out on it, because they look so supportive and they're so chill and they're so easy to be around. Terry kind of gives everything that he has to Claudia, and that I think sort of fuels their complicated relationship. So the core motivation of a type 9 is to keep the peace. It's kind of why they're called the peacemaker, although that's more like a peacekeeper, right? I don't know. So Terry never voices his own opinions unless specifically asked, because this is how the type 9 thinks. Like, what if what I have to say will offend the other party? It's not like a full, like, genuine consideration of the other person's feelings, although Terry is very inclusive of Viren. Even though he knows that Viren like hates elves, he still treats them with, some level of decency, which is good. Maybe Terry is like a naturally good-hearted person, but also because he's a type 9, 9s like to keep their thoughts to themselves so that they don't risk, creating conflict. This leads us to the core fears of a type 9, which are disharmony and drama, but really more than that, You've Got a Type says that 9s fear disconnection from the ones that they love. 9s will do everything they can to maintain the status quo so that they don't lose their loved ones, so that there's no conflict that could cause them to leave them. So 9s with an 8-wing are also known as the referee. They are focused on comfort and sociability. They can be silly, outgoing, and pretty nice. They definitely compartmentalize their emotions, and they can balance silliness with stability. Terry definitely is silly, as much as I didn't care for any of the jokes that he was unfortunately the butt of, pun intended. Still, he and Claudia definitely feed off of each other's sense of humor. So at least that's kind of sweet, right? The move of integration for a type 9 is towards the healthiest aspects of the type 3 achiever. So that's when they become practical, disciplined, and their self-esteem goes up and they become very ambitious. Unfortunately, Terry is not at his healthiest. Instead, I believe he has made the move to disintegration, which is where 9s take on the worst traits of the type 6. They become anxious and they scramble to any form of stability. I would say that this is definitely where he is, because when Claudia is like, "You're not gonna leave me, I'm leaving you," Terry needs Claudia, so he becomes very anxious and literally scrambles and is like, "No, Claudia, please, like, I'll stay here, I'll be here for you, I'll never leave you." And it's like, dude, get it together, you know? Either talk it out with Claudia or, I don't know, find something healthy. I'm trying to be very careful, because like, what if you are watching this and you really do ship Claudia and Terry? That's fine. I'm not saying don't ship them. Totally. I tend to like most of the ships in the show. There's some pretty good ones there. I'd say this is where Terry is. He's willing to stay by Claudia's side no matter how wrong she may be, because he needs stability and resents turbulence. Next, onto the subtype / instinct. I say that Terry's is one-on-one, also known as sexual instinct, though it doesn't really have much to do with sexuality at all, don't worry. So this subtype is really about a desire for one-on-one interactions. So these 9s don't feel capable of bringing their own energy, and they have a hard time creating their own identity. So they merge identities with their mates or their partner. They become codependent. It's our life rather than my life and your life. When Claudia says, "Terry, tell me what to do, help me figure this out here." First of all, 9s never like being asked to tell others what to do, because Terry is so unhealthy and has a one-on-one subtype. Maybe he can't even think like, oh, it's Claudia's life and my life, because he's been together with her for so long, and because he's gone through this whole journey of saving Claudia's dad, who literally hates elves. It's like, why would you have even joined this group in the first place? CP Enneagram says this: sexual 9s express their passion of laziness by merging with the important people in their lives. Sexual 9s unconsciously take on the attitudes, opinions, and feelings of others because it can feel too hard to stand on their own. These 9s tend to be kind, gentle, shy characters who are not very assertive. We're onto the triads now. So in the center of intelligence, 9s are part of the body / gut center, just like type 8 challenger, such as Viren, except 9s have a hard time acknowledging their anger. Never once has Terry acted out of contempt. Next, in the harmonic triad, 9s are part of the positive group. So this is again about how they cope with pain. So they are in denial of how bad things are. As You've Got a Type says, they try to put a positive spin on things. So Terry's constantly trying to cheer up Claudia and even Viren when he was still part of the team. In the Hornevian triad, 9s are part of the withdrawn group. So it's basically when they've had too much of a social interaction, they'll withdraw. And as You've Got a Type says, they'll go into cruise control. Lastly, I have one more thing to say that comes from You've Got a Type. So if you're a Terry and Claudia shipper, cover your ears for this part, okay? 9s can endure long-term relationships with extremely healthy people because they don't feel the pain of a toxic relationship in a visceral manner. I feel really sad saying all this stuff for Terry and Claudia because I do like them and I don't want them to be sad. I want them to be okay. So, season 7, please treat them well. And there you have it. Thank you so much for watching this video. We have discussed Team Dark Magic's Enneagram types: Viren, Claudia, and Terry. So please let me know in the comments what you thought, if you agree with my identification of these characters, if you disagree. I would love to hear your thoughts, and also if you want to check out the other video where I typed Team Zadia, feel free to check that out too. I do have plans for making more of these videos, so let me know if you liked it by giving it a thumbs up or something like that. I still feel kind of cheesy saying that kind of stuff. But I'll come back with a more fun and interesting video for next time. Ciao, ciao!